Yo, 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 what is good, everybody? Hope y'all are having a fantastic day, man. I know it's been a little minute, but free agency has been ramping up. And man, when I say things have just been going, it's been going pretty good in my eyes for what the Falcons may be trying to do this year, what they trying to look like. So I just wanted to get on here and talk about a few moves that they've made, talk about a few things that are kind of controversial and, just give y'all my opinions on things. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and start off with the elephant in the room. I know everybody and their mama didn't want us to sign Tua, but I kind of look at it like this, and hearing some things and kind of seeing what people are saying and stuff like that. I can agree with certain things, and I kind of disagree with a few things. But at the end of the day, I feel like Tua is more like a bridge quarterback for us at this point in time. We don't have to pay him a whole bunch of money. I think he's only getting 1.3 mil because he's still getting the rest of his bag from Miami, I believe. But if you really kind of look at it, take it in, if Tua beats out Michael Penix, then we have Tua for a year. Depending on how it goes, we are pretty much not going to sign him for like a long-term deal as our starting quarterback. What I think at that point they would do is they would sign Tua for like maybe a 2-year deal as a bridge quarterback, and they would go get a quarterback next year in next year's draft. Next year's draft has about 6 really good quarterbacks. Honestly, you can go about 8 good quarterbacks, and not every team is going to need a quarterback next year. It is probably going to be about 4 teams looking for a quarterback. And depending on how good we are, which I definitely think with the roster that we have, we could still be decent enough to at least make something happen towards the playoffs this year. But, with that being said, like I said, I think that we'll be in a nice fit in the draft next year to pick up a quarterback if Tua beats out Michael Penix and we have to go a different route. But also, just look at it as if Michael Penix beats out Tua, Tua's just a nice backup for us to have for 1 year, and then we probably still go get another quarterback next year and let Tua walk. So don't really look at that too much, guys. Let's just look at it as he's just here for now. He's not the long-term answer. And even when it comes down to Michael Penix, he's had five five ending season ending injuries in 8 years. That's not good. That's not good at all. Honestly and truly, it really didn't make any sense why we picked him at the time. And at the end of the day, especially with our offensive line, we have Jake Matthews, who's 34. I think. How old is Jake? 34. We got Caleb. I think he's 31. Chris, 31. Our offensive line is old. You can't pair an old offensive line, even though they're good, but a few of them are injury prone. You can't pair an old offensive line with a young quarterback who's already very injury prone. At the end of the day, if Michael Penix can beat him out, then we still roll with Michael Penix, like I said, for a couple more years. We still probably draft another quarterback in this next year's draft and next year's draft, not this next year's draft. And then, we just move on from there, bro. But outside of that, I really like that we went ahead, franchise tag Kyle Pitts, keep him on for, the 15 mil, and then maybe next year see what we got going on. A lot of the deals that we made this year are 1-year deals, which is pretty good in my opinion, because that frees up the space to make sure that we have enough space to make sure that we can pay Bijan, that we can pay Drake London. And if we do decide to keep Kyle Pitts, we probably will have enough money to keep Kyle Pitts at that point in time as well. But I did like the addition of Austin Hooper coming back. That was really good. Zacchaeus, I think I said that right, but Oz, I like bringing him back too. Those are 2 guys that played with Matt Ryan when he was still with the team, and even when Austin Hooper was on our team, yeah, he was a tight end too, but at times he really was a tight end 1 for us, and he did his thing for with the Patriots last year. He's a good blocker. I like that we are able to now use 2 tight ends two good tight ends that could catch the ball, score touchdowns, and with Kevin Stefanski as our head coach at this point in time, he likes to use the tight end position, so that's a pretty good pickup in my eyes. And like I said, OZ, we needed him to come in, be a wide receiver 3 for us, because after Drake London went down last year, we had Darnell Mooney and nobody else. And Darnell Mooney couldn't catch the ball. He was injured off and on off the field. And then, my favorite pickup in the whole free agency for us was Jahan Dotson. Like, I liked him when he was at Washington. When he was at Washington in his first year, that brother was balling. And at the end of the day, he wasn't able to show what he could really do with that crowded wide receiver room over there in Philly. But I feel like with us, him being a wide receiver too, we'll probably still end up getting the wide receiver in the draft. But I feel like this is a good time for him to show us what he's got. And then maybe in, a year or two, he'll be signing an extension with us. And I think he's a good pairing with Drake London. I think he's a good deep ball threat as well. From what I remember when he played at Penn State, he's more of a glide. He's shorter, but he's like he's more of a glide speedster. If you kind of get what I'm saying, like I feel like he could definitely get up there, but 9 times out of 10, he's a really good glider. But I think he's still a good deep ball threat for us as well. And at the end of the day, we got OZ. OZ is still a good deep ball threat himself. So I like those two additions, and then the center that we picked up, Corey. I like him too. I think he's going to be a pretty good backup for our center guard position. I know Juwan. I think that was Juwan who went to the Ravens. I forgot that we didn't sign him, so that was a pretty good pickup, especially with us having, like I said, such an old offensive line. We need to start get a little younger, and I think he'll definitely be able to do his part for us as well. Getting over to the defensive side of the ball, the picks that I really liked were the Christian Harris, Azeez Ojulari, Chris Williams. I like Channing. I like the Channing pickup, and I like the Cam Thomas pickup. Cam Thomas, he played with Myles Garrett and them boys for the past couple of years. Played with Kevin Stefanski. That's probably a main reason why they brought him down. But I feel like even when he was playing with the Browns, he really kind of popped off the screen last year. And now that I kind of like looked at him and looked at his film, I remember seeing a couple plays where I was like, dang, who's that guy? And I mean, again, like he won, again, the best player on that team. It was Myles Garrett. But I feel like he was definitely a key piece that they definitely used. And with us needing a defensive end at this point in time, or outside linebacker at this point in time, I think that he's going to be able to come in and definitely produce for us. And, we still got Braylon Trice. I believe in Braylon Trice. I think that he's going to be able to come back and make something happen, hopefully this year. But, with him being questionable, with James being questionable, and I might talk about that later on, I feel like he's going to be one of those key pieces, as well as Azeez Ojulari. He had the hamstring injury last year, only played like maybe 4 games, I believe. But like, I feel like if he's able to come back, have a really good season this year, we'll probably end up signing him to a long-term deal, because again, the year before he went crazy. I think he had maybe 6 sacks, maybe 7 sacks the year before with the Giants. And I just think that, he just needs to find his footing again. And once he finds it, I think he'll be a really good piece for us, as well as, like I said, we just need the depth at this point. Arnold Ebiketie left. We didn't sign a lot of other guys. We're letting them walk. And I just feel like we need some of those Georgia guys. And I'm glad they did pick up a couple Georgia guys and a couple Alabama guys. Chris Williams, I really like Chris Williams. I think that was a really good pickup. I feel like him and Cam are kind of like on the same boat. They weren't the top guys on their defense, but they were definitely key pieces that had the boat moving. And I feel like that's what we need. We need key pieces that can help out. And if somebody gets hurt or anything like that, that they can come in and they can also make something happen. And I just feel like that's what we need at this point in time. And when it comes down to Christian Harris, I feel like he's the best pickup that we did get on the defensive side of the ball and free agency. And that's because like 2 years ago, that man was a dog. 2 years ago, that man was a dog. He got hurt, and I understand, but when he was with the Texans and he was the starter, you saw he popped out on the screen every play. So at the end of the day, I feel like that's one of the best pickups that we did get. Losing Caden was kind of difficult to take in, but I guess they just weren't willing to give him the 11 million that the Saints were willing to give him, as well as we still need another running back to back up Bijan. So I understand they restructured Jake Matthews' contract so that we could free up some space, which is good. So we can go out and get a couple more pieces, but I still think that the draft is going to be we're going to be looking to the draft to try and pick up some of those other key pieces. But I was really good that they picked him up. And like I said, I think he's going to be a baller for us. Channing, I feel like Channing, all he needs is to be around some UGA players, some Alabama players. He needs to get back into the groove. I feel like he's more than just a special teams guy. And I know that that's probably going to be his slot for a little while, but I feel like if he's given an opportunity, and it's still one of the fastest linebackers that's out there, I think that he can still make tackles, and I think he can still make plays. The thing that kind of is iffy to me, non-free agency, but just with that linebacker room, is Troy Anderson. Troy Anderson ain't touched the field in 2 years. And I never liked it when they picked him up in the first place, because at the end of the day, it was that 2 years ago draft was garbage. I don't care what nobody says, it was garbage. He wanted them or whenever that year was, 2022. But I don't believe in him. And until he showed me something different, I need Christian Harris on the field more than Troy Anderson, in my opinion. And so that's one of the main reasons why I do like that pickup, is because even though Christian came off the injury from last year and he was buried with the depth chart, I just feel like he was a lot more efficient, a lot better in coverage, can tackle better. I just feel like he's just a better overall linebacker. And then we signed the kicker and the punter. I feel like both of those were, good pieces, just pieces that we needed because the special teams was so bad last year. And yeah, I feel like if they can hit on some key pieces like another D tackle, maybe one more DN, a cornerback or two, and maybe a running back and a wide receiver and maybe two linemen. If we could, swap some picks, get a couple more picks, which Ian Cunningham has showed us that, with the Bears, they went in with 5 picks and ended up with 10. And we kind of do the same thing, end up with like 8, get two linemen, a wide receiver, a running back, 2 corners, a D tackle, and a linebacker. That's 8 picks right there. I'm good. I'm happy with that. Because I definitely feel like it's a lot of good pieces, especially on the defensive side of the ball this year. Not so much on the offensive side of the ball, but if we can get just some building blocks on the offensive line that we think that we can make something happen with, and we still got Jack Nelson. I personally don't think that he's gonna be the answer for the long period of time, but if we can develop him and maybe he can show us something later on in life, or later on in his career, then that's cool. But if we could put some other key pieces around him and that offensive line so they can build up together, that'd be great. And like I said, maybe another wide receiver, and we got Austin Hooper. We can definitely go get a tight end next year, and then like I said, we can get a quarterback next year. But if we can hit those key points in the draft, I feel like the Falcons could possibly make something shake. At the end of the day, man, we had the best offense in NFC South last year, and they just weren't able to get it done with the coaching. Maybe with this different coaching regime and these key pieces that we bringing in, these good pieces that we are bringing in on the defensive side of the ball, I feel like they can still make something shake next year. And I think Jalen Walker is gonna have to come up off that outside linebacker. He's gonna have to be a stand-up dude at some point, because at the end of the day, with that linebacker room, I just feel like he is a good stand-up linebacker. And I feel like he needs to embrace that and don't run away from it, you know? And if he can do that, then I definitely feel like we can be able to make some shake. And I think I'm gonna leave it at that for right now. I'll probably make another video about the James Pierce thing, but yeah, I think we're looking really good this year, and hopefully we'll be able to make some shake. Y'all will probably hear me again coming back, talk about the rest of the NFC South, seeing what they got going on, and how I think everything is gonna end up being at the end of the year. But thank y'all for watching. I hope y'all have a fantastic day. Number G takes. Peace.